You're never alone, I'll always hold you in my arms. Close your eyes, just close your eyes, and I'm with you. When you are sad, I'll dry your tears. It's alright, close your eyes.
Hello, all you little and big ones down there, wherever on earth you might be right now. Oh, right! I almost forgot to introduce myself. My name is Little Wing, and I have been up here for almost 3,000 years now. But you have to know, that is no age at all for an angel, because for an angel, I'm still very, very young. I was chosen to come along with you throughout this important story. And since this is a true story, I will tell it to you just as it happened. I swear to the tip of my wings. Because I lived the story with my own eyes and ears, even though I was still quite a little angel boy back then. Yeah, I was right there then. This true story took place almost 2,000 years ago. Ever since, we call this time of the year Christmas time. That is the time from now on until Santa's coming. Right, that's when you always get the many, many presents. Now I will tell you why this time is also very special in a different sense. To sweeten you the time until December 25th, it is a custom in many countries to have a Christmas calendar. And this here is one of this kind too. From now on, I think you will be able to find everything on your own without my help. All right then, have fun!
Who desires entry? Halt! Not one step further unless you answer the following question. Who appeared to the three wise men in the desert? A mule, B, an angel, C, Saint Anthony. Who desires entry? Halt! Not one step further unless you answer the following question. Who appeared to the three wise men in the desert? A mule, B, an angel, C, Saint Anthony. Who desires entry? Halt!
The man who had helped Mary and Joseph told neither his wife nor his children anything about Mary and Joseph sleeping in his stall. He was a good person, quiet and unassuming. For him, it was only natural that he should offer support to people who were in difficulty. And it really would have been just another normal evening, one of those days that he would ordinarily finish in the presence of his loved ones. If that something exceptional hadn't taken place. An angel appeared. The glory of God shone in him. Although the family had never experienced anything like this, they appeared not to be afraid. Quietly, they observed the spectacle which took place directly in front of their eyes. Even the children would just be happily teasing, pinching, romping around with each other, became quiet and thoughtful. And God's angel spoke to them.
Fear not, for I bring you tidings of great happiness. You, man, unselfishly helped Joseph and Mary and gave them your stall without considering what you might gain. That which you have done for them, you have done for Christ our Lord. Therefore be informed of the wonderful news. The coming of Christ nears. In a short time, he will be on earth.
The family did not know what they should say. The appearance of the angel outshone everything. Then he disappeared as unexpectedly as he had appeared. And the family prepared themselves to receive Jesus Christ, the Savior on earth.
What would you wish for if you were to have 3 wishes granted? Not possible? Well, then you should hear what I have to report.
What? How? Where am I? Who's there? Ah, you are, my dear friends. I fell asleep from so much storytelling. Oh, why do I have to wake up just now when I was having such a wonderful dream? I dreamt I was just in the library somewhere in Arabia. My dear good old friend Enzo is always telling me about this library where there must be a book with all the stories of the world. I borrowed it in my dream. Then something must have awakened me. You have to imagine it, a book where everything is written down. Because actually what we do every day, I mean, getting up, going to school, playing, well, they're stories. Lots of stories and exciting stories. Even though it doesn't always seem to be so. For Enzo and me, it is so. In short, every story which takes place on Earth is written by an invisible hand. For instance, at this moment, someone is writing down that you are sitting at the computer and listening to me. But no one has seen this book yet. There is no evidence of its existence. But Enzo has been pestering me with this book for several years, and I borrowed it in my dream. Where dreams are concerned, if you had a wish, what would you really wish? Think it over and write me. Or rather, write to Enzo. He has a burning interest to know, and you could also paint a picture, but just one, please. The address is on the CD's cover. Before you start, Enzo has asked me to tell you another story. The following happened to a young married couple who lived not far from Enzo a long time ago. They were living together happily. They had the one shortcoming which can be found in every person. When one is doing well, one would like more. In other words, these young people were never happy with what they had. First, they wanted to get the mayor's vineyard, and then thousands of florins. Another time, they wanted the neighbor's field, and at the end, the innkeeper's estates. In short, they always wanted more. On an evening when they were sitting comfortably together, she was knitting a sweater for her husband, and he was reading a newspaper, an elf-like figure came down through the chimney. It was a young, really pretty fairy, not taller than 3 feet. Even though she came through the chimney, her long dress stayed white. It shimmered and glittered so that the whole room was shining. The light went out, and the room was filled with the scent of moss and forest. Imagine how our young married people were unsuspectingly occupied with their activities when the fairy flew in. You know, one can be terribly frightened from something like that. But they soon recovered from the shock, and the fairy spoke with the brightest and purest voice that you could ever imagine. "It's me, the mountain fairy, and I live on the big mountain in the glass castle. It's me, the mountain fairy. All over the world I do good, with the 700 spirits that I command. You may have 3 wishes granted. As soon as you express a wish, it will be filled." The woman was just getting ready to wish for mountains of gold and jewelry when the fairy raised her extended finger to her mouth to give her a sign that she shouldn't speak. The fairy explained to her that they should both consider very carefully and that they had 8 days' time. "Right, we can't make a mistake," said the man, and in the blink of an eye, the fairy disappeared. The light went on again in the room, and there was no scent of moss and forest any longer. The young couple rejoiced. Never had the world seemed more beautiful to them. Finally, all of their desires would be fulfilled. A few days later, they sat at the table having dinner. Both of them enjoyed watching the sparks flying from the fireplace. They had mashed potatoes on their plates, and both enjoyed the aroma. It was hardly a minute later, and the woman said that she would like to have a sausage with the mashed potatoes. She would be really happy. It happened as she had wished. Quick as a flash, a sausage was on the mashed potatoes. The man got angry with his forward wife. "If only the sausage were attached to your nose." He'd scarcely said those words when, quick as a flash, the sausage flew to the woman's nose and looked like it was attached to it. She immediately examined her new nose. The sausage was really growing there. It seemed as if it had always belonged to her, shamelessly hanging over her upper lip. You don't need much fantasy to imagine what was now going on in the little room. 2 wishes were already used up, and the only thing the young pair had gained from it was the woman's funny sausage nose. 1 wish was still left, but they had to get rid of the sausage with it. Of course, they didn't have to, but who wants to run around his whole life with a sausage nose? Well, that's how it is when one can't get enough and one doesn't want to be modest. And to come back to my opening question, do you know what you would wish for? Think it over. You shouldn't have the same experience as the young married couple. Well, no one wishes for a sausage nose anymore, but other things could happen to you. What did my dear good old friend Enzo want to tell you with this story? I think he wanted to say to you, what good are the best possibilities if one doesn't have intelligence to use them? Or, put another way, think it over 3 times before you act once. Yeah, that's how it is. Yeah. Now you'd like to know what came of the 3rd wish. What do you think? Must the poor wife keep the sausage nose for her lifetime? Did they wish for gold and jewels? I must unfortunately say that even I don't know more than you. Enzo didn't want to give it away for me last year. The best thing would be for you to write what you think they wished on that postcard. Of course, you could paint it, but just 1 card. And as already said, write to Enzo. He's in Germany now and is visiting Joe, one of our best friends. And he's the funniest of all of us. And like Enzo, can tell the best stories in the world. Joe is the world's best joke teller. Yeah, Joe and the jokes. Ah, that's another story. I'll tell it to you another time. Hmm? Perhaps next year.
Hey, my story is told in this fairy tale. I can promise you it will make you glow inside.
After Christmas is New Year's Eve. I'm really looking forward to it. Not because of all the fireworks, certainly not. I don't throw away my money for rockets, firecrackers, and Bengal fire. That's some kind of top which rapidly spins and at the same time spits sparks. Instead, I'd rather spend it on some beneficial use. I'm happy because my dear, good old friend Enzo is visiting me. He's coming from farthest Sicily. Exactly on December the 31st, he will come for breakfast. I can set my watch by him, and he surely has many stories to tell me, just like the last year. At that time, he told me about an event which he had experienced a very long time ago. It was New Year's Eve, and that New Year's Eve, when there was so much snow in Sicily that he could go sledging for the first time. At that time, it had snowed so much that they didn't know what to do about all that snow. It was so terribly cold that 2 ovens were not enough to warm the room. And it was the last evening in that year. The streets were empty. Everyone was together with families, preparing to celebrate for the new year. Everyone except for a small, poor little girl who wandered around in the street barefoot. Admittedly, when she left home, she had slippers on. That was a long time ago. She lost one when she jumped out of the way of a speeding car. The other one was swiped by a little boy who had accompanied her a little way. So the little girl tramped around barefoot through the winter. You can certainly imagine that her feet were black and blue from the cold, but in her old apron there were a lot of matches, and she held in her hand the little matchbox with which you could light the matches. The matches and the matchbox were the last thing she had left. The money that she'd been given had long been spent, and she was completely alone in this village. She wanted to sell the matches because she was very hungry and she was freezing. The whole day she stood in the marketplace and offered the matches for sale. But she couldn't sell any of them, and night was falling. The snowflakes wanted to ask the little girl to dance. They whirled by her in merry circles. She looked wonderful with her long blonde hair, which played around her shoulders. She looked at the house across the way, into the windows, into the warm light, and observed how the people were getting ready for New Year's Eve. She saw how the mother was basting the roast, and how the children were enjoying themselves with their toys, which their father had made them for Christmas. Oh, why can't I have such a family too? Thought the little girl. What will my parents say if I haven't even sold a single match? And she stood alone in the cold night and hoped something wonderful might happen. Then she lay down under the canopy of the tool shed, which was next to the house. She pulled her legs up close to her body to make herself warm and thought of home. Her father would scold her terribly if she came home without having achieved anything. They needed money because they were very poor and had nothing except the roof over their head. Even in the living room, which was kitchen, bedroom, and children's room in one, the wind blew, and when she thought about it, it was as cold inside as outside. How nice it'd be to light a match now, she thought. It'd warm me, and I would enjoy its bright glow. Ah, if only I dared to light one. But why not? She encouraged herself. Today is New Year's Eve. No one can have anything against it if I light only one. She took a match and zip, zip. In a flash, it was done. She lighted it. How wonderful the little flame was. What a warmth it promised. She held her little hands over it, and it seemed to her as if the match was warming her like a stove. It was wonderful. She just wanted to put her feet near it when a draft. The stove was no longer there. The warmth had disappeared, and she was sitting again in the cold in front of the tool shed, holding a half-burnt match in her hand. Zip, zip. She quickly lit another one, without having second thoughts. The tool shed door opened, and she found herself in a cozy, warm kitchen. The table was laid, and in the oven there was a goose roasting. Oh, how nice it smelled. Her mouth started to water. The goose jumped out of the oven and waddled directly towards her. When the goose passed by the table, a knife and fork jumped out of the floor and followed merrily. All of them came directly towards her in a single file. Then the match went out, and the little girl was sitting again in the darkness. But she quickly lit another one. All of a sudden, she was sitting under the largest and the most beautiful Christmas tree which one could imagine. It was really more beautifully decorated than that of the fat mare which she had seen through the window, and the mare was certainly not poor. How magnificently the candles sparkled on the green branches, and there was even a big present under the tree. Her name was written on it in large letters. She just wanted to reach out her hand, and the match went out. She became sad, and her head started to drop. In the snow were reflected thousands of Christmas lights, and she wondered if they weren't maybe stars. She looked up and saw a bright star with a long tail which went out as quickly as it had begun to shine. "Someone is dying here," cried the little girl loudly. "Someone is dying. Don't you understand me?" But no one was there who could hear her. She remembered her grandmother, who had died a long time ago. She had always said that when you see a shooting star, a soul is rising up to God. She really had said that, often as she gently caressed the little girl's hair. "Grandma, my dear Grandma," she said aloud, "you were the only one who was ever good to me." And she took out another match and lit it. Zip, zip. Her grandmother was now standing next to her and gave her jacket and warm shoes so that she didn't have to freeze any more. "Grandma," she pleaded, "Grandma, take me with you. Don't leave me here alone. I know when the match goes out you'll disappear again, just as the warm oven, the delicious roasting goose, and the festive decorated Christmas tree did." And she lit all of the matches all at once. Zip, 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 zip. She just wanted to hold on to her grandmother. The grandmother appeared to her in bright splendor as never before. She took the child protectively in her arms, and both of them floated up to the stars above, towards the light. She left all of her fears, all of the cold, and the great hunger behind her. This tale had a good ending after all. The little girl got all the love and affection which she had for such a long time desired. It doesn't matter where they were going. Well, Enzo couldn't tell me exactly where they were going. But the next morning, when the new year began and Enzo was going to church, he found on the way, directly in front of the tool shed, a pair of children's warm winter boots, a thick winter jacket, and burnt matches. Of course, he thought about a stupid boy's trick first. But when the story of the matches began to go round in the village, he remembered his discovery again. By the way, what time is it, actually? Oh, is it really so late? I still have to prepare the room for Enzo and make a present for him, because he is as happy about my homemade presents as I am about his stories. Oh, the fire has gone out, and I have to light it again.